Friends, let's imagine for a moment that you've decided to emigrate to Montenegro by opening a company in the country. Accordingly, you are faced with the question of preparing a certain set of documents and bringing them to Montenegro. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I won't read out the entire list of documents to you right now. You can find it on our website. There you'll find a complete, detailed, and fully up-to-date description of the program. You can also contact me using the details provided in the description of this video and request the list of documents directly from me. My name is Dimitri, and you can reach out to me with any questions about immigration to Montenegro or life in the country. But today, right now in this video, I want to talk about some of the nuances involved in preparing documents for immigration. I start with a certificate of no criminal record. The certificate of no criminal record must be an original with a physical stamp. In other words, electronic certificates of no criminal record obtained from government services are not accepted in Montenegro. The certificate of no criminal record is accepted only if it is no older than 6 months, unless a different validity period is specified on the document. On standard certificates of no criminal record, the validity period is not indicated, and a certificate of no criminal record is required for all family members who are already 16 years old. So if someone has turned 16, you need to get the certificate. If it doesn't come true, then it's not necessary. The second nuance I want to talk about is the educational document. As you have hopefully already seen on our website, there is a complete list of documents, and you can see that an educational document is required. Which one should you use? If you need a specific document for your own purposes, for example, to work in your field or to obtain a certain license, such as needing to have your medical diploma nostrified, well, then let's focus on that one. If you just need to obtain a residence permit, it's best to submit your secondary education document. Why? Because the fee for secondary education is 50 euros, while for higher education, it's 100 euros. So you would end up paying an extra 50 euros unnecessarily. Secondary education is cheaper. Secondly, pay attention to how many pages in the document need to be translated. That is, some documents are small, while others are much larger. For example, a certificate of completion for 9 grades. Well, if you still have a Soviet era certificate, say for 8 grades, it usually consists of just 1 page. A certificate for 11 grades is usually 3 pages. Well, as for diplomas, they can have 5 or 6 pages and sometimes even more. Accordingly, the larger the document, the higher the translation costs. So the most optimal option is, of course, to submit a certificate of completion for 9 grades. Well, for those who still have it, that way you translate the least and the fee is lower. Or at least a certificate of completion for 11 grades if someone has lost their 9 grade certificate. For nostrification, only the educational document is needed. You submit it to the Ministry of Education. They give you a certificate stating that your documents for nostrification have been submitted. This certificate is sufficient for applying for a residence permit. And basically, you don't really need to do anything else. Just send us a scanned copy of your educational document, and that's it. And of course, the payment. But it is recommended, although not required, but recommended that in addition to these steps, everyone except Ukrainians should get a confirmation certificate from the educational institution they graduated from. And for Ukrainians, instead of that, you should have an apostille placed on your educational document. Why is this done? Because when we submit your documents to the Ministry of Education, the ministry will send a request to your home country. Did Ivan Ivanov really study at this educational institution? Well, after that, everything depends on your citizenship. For example, Belarusians, the educational institutions in Belarus, respond to such requests quite well. There, it seems, Lukashenko has got everything organized. Ukrainian and Russian institutions, on the other hand, rarely respond to such requests. So if you graduated from school in Ukraine or Russia, like most immigrants, then most likely no one will respond to your request. Therefore, when renewing your residence permit, you may find that you might not necessarily need this, but you might have to go to the Ministry of Education and get a new certificate. In principle, this is not a major problem. For example, it takes about 2.5 hours to get to the Ministry of Education from Herceg-Novi. But all of this is extra effort and hassle. If you get a certificate now from your educational institution, the Ministry of Education will not send a request to your home country. Instead, it will immediately issue a decision on nostrification. Accordingly, when you renew in a year, you are guaranteed not to have to go anywhere. So basically, it just makes things a bit easier for you in the future. Let's put it this way, it will make your life a little bit easier. You just need to reach out to your educational institution. If you live in the same city where you studied, then it's really not a problem at all. The next point is also very important, whether to open a company in your home country or after arriving in Montenegro. Most people open it in advance before coming to Montenegro by sending me a power of attorney. You can get detailed instructions on how to do this by contacting me through any messenger. Telegram, WhatsApp, Viber, whatever you have, just write to me and I will send you the most detailed instructions. That's it. Why is this done? First of all, opening a company well. Because of the epidemic, everything here has started to take longer, much longer than before. That is, if before we could open a company in a guaranteed maximum of 1 week, now it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to open a company. But usually the standard is something like this. If you're lucky, it's 2 weeks. If you're not, it's 3. That's it. It would just be silly to sit here and wait for up to a month for your company to be open. That's it. It's much more reasonable to come when the company is already open and the nostrification is done, then prepare a simple set of documents and apply for a residence permit. So you spend a few days preparing the documents and submit them. It's much easier and much more logical. Besides all that, a significant portion, in fact, I would say the majority of immigrants arrive during the summer months. Why is that? I don't know. Probably because most people, well, not everyone, but the majority have families and most already have children. And probably it's just easier to move in the summer because of school. That's why the lion's share of immigrants arrives during the summer months. But what happens in the summer months? And summer is vacation season. That means officials go on vacation, and as a result, there can be very significant delays in opening a business and in nostrification. So for those who arrive during the summer, it's not just recommended, it's practically a must. You really need to get both things done before mid-June. I strongly recommend this. I have a separate video on this topic where I explain everything about this point in detail. So the next question is, to apply for a residence permit based on opening a company, you need to have 3,650 euros in your account. We are applying for the residence permit without this amount. We're not doing anything shady, we're not deceiving anyone, we're not forging anything in the pub. We are simply replacing the bank statement with another document, coordinated with the map which they accept from us. So again, this is all completely legal, there are no downsides to this and you won't face any consequences because of it. So, and probably the last question I want to address, the validity period of the passport. The validity period of your passport must be at least 3 months longer than the period for which you are applying for the residence permit at the time you submit your application for the residence permit, of course, not at the time you open the company. So if you want to get a residence permit for 1 year, your passport must be valid for at least 15 months. If it is valid for less time, you will still get the residence permit, but not for a year, just for a shorter period. For example, if your passport is only valid for 9 months, you will get a residence permit for 6 months. Ideally, of course, you should get a residence permit for the maximum possible period, that is for a year. Accordingly, your passport must be valid for 15 months, no less. That's all from me. Thank you all for your attention, and goodbye.